work-life balance. It's a very difficult, almost unattainable pot of gold at the end of the rainbow balance to attain, let alone maintain. And the harder a balance is to attain, the more easily it is disturbed. The more easily it is thrown off balance. You're listening to the Everyday Legends podcast, the show that is dedicated to championing everyday men and supporting you in getting more from life, love, and the everyday. I'm your host, Mike Campbell, and the aim of this podcast is pretty simple: to support you in building rock-solid foundations, legendary integrity, and kick-ass relationships with plenty of stories, a load of lessons, and a solid dose of some loving straight talk. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Everyday Legends podcast. I'm your host, Mike Campbell. If you're new here, hello, welcome. I'm going to talk today about life balance, or work-life balance is perhaps the extended piece of that. If you've been here before, hi, welcome back. Fucking great to have you here. And if you're new, yeah, I swear from time to time because, swear words help me make a point and express my passion. And as I wrote about this on social media recently, I swear because I fucking care, and I won't get into that because that's a different topic for a different day. But here you are, a few cuss words to help me make my point. I'm going to talk about life balance, work-life balance today, and I want to keep this one pretty punchy. I want to make a point that I think is a pretty fucking valid one and that I think could support you. If you're one of the many, many men who, I was going to say fallen into the trap of, but that just feels a little bit condescending almost, doesn't it? But perhaps if you've been, in any way, shape or form, believing that you might find work-life balance, or maybe that you have it perhaps, or that you've been striving for it, that it's been one of those things that you've been searching for, I'm looking for better work-life balance. I'm looking for better work-life balance. I want to achieve a better work-life balance. And what I'm going to kind of come to you with today is I'm going to shit on that a little bit, but I want to provide an idea as to why I think that's on some level fucking stupid. And work-life balance is effectively fucking stupid. And I'll get to that in a moment. And I'll explain why. And I want to give you a solution. All right. So I'm not here just to shit on anything without giving you a solution. So first of all, let's look at the idea of, you might use different language. And so we can explore some of them. And please let me know what language that you use, because language is very powerful. You might use language like this, along the lines of searching for work-life balance, trying to find work-life balance, trying to find a better work-life balance, or perhaps even more disempowering, hoping that a better work-life balance finds you. And when I say disempowering, because you're waiting for it to find you, which means you're not doing anything about it. You're not taking ownership of it and responsibility for your actions. You're just hoping that it will magically pop up one day and find you. Someone sprinkled work-life balance dust on you in the middle of the night, which of course, hopefully, as I say that sounds ridiculous. Here's the thing about that. I'm chasing it. And like metaphorically, the things that I chase evade me. And that seems to be the reality for many people, many men, when it comes to trying to chase, seek, find, achieve, search for work-life balance. And of course, this is people, but I think this might play out very similar. It might play out very differently for men and women, but traditionally, a lot of men have both had the role of provider and sole provider in the family, and that might mean that they do the work and perhaps their partner doesn't, or not as much, especially if there's children around. Whatever your opinions and beliefs around that are, what I will say is this: most men deeply, innately have ingrained in us a sense of purpose in being of service and providing for others, especially those around us, making sure that they are looked after and are safe and free to roam and experience the world. That will often lead us to diving heavily into our work, because it is one of the avenues in which we get to provide for others and be of service to them and be of service to the work and whatever that work does. And of course, that varies on a spectrum, perhaps, of how meaningful and purposeful that work is to us, or perhaps to the world. Either way, it can see us really dive into that work, that pursuit of providing financially for our family, creating financial security, or providing and being of service to whatever the work is. It could be volunteering and it's a volunteer role, but There's immense service that provides to others. But here's the other piece of that puzzle. As men, the masculine has a deeply ingrained drive to do those things, and with that, pour our energy into things where we can enact and manifest that, where we can bring our skills and talents to life so that we can make a difference in the world / our world, the world of those around us. And so that can look like many, many things and have many, many different drivers and intentionalities and motivations behind it. But often when we look at it at the surface for many men, it means that a shitload of our energy goes into work. And if you have a home life, if you have family, then what can often be seen is, especially the way that our world tends to work now, which, you know, we had this kind of 40-hour work week, which is generally speaking a bit of a fucking pipe dream for a lot of people. We've almost glorified overworking. We've glorified being busy. We've glorified being seen as the first person to get into work and the last person to leave. Working kind of thing. Rest when you're dead. You've got to earn, you know, any rest and relaxation and so on, which also might speak to an individual's personal psychology and history based on perhaps wounds and issues and unmet needs around worthiness and so on. The more I work, perhaps the more worthy I am and so on. If that's you, put a flag in that and let's come and have a conversation about that another time. And so there might be this immense idea and push and drive internally and also internally in the home, perhaps, to work, earn, provide, build a future, create financial security and stability. And then there might also be this drive in the home and in the family to be present, to not be gone all the time, not be working all the time, not always be in your work. Even if you're at home, the work's there, you can see it, you're fucking in your head about it, or it's right accessible in your phone or whatever it may be. And actually have that balance in your life of being present in your family, with your partner, whatever else your life is. Because you might also be someone who's single and you don't have a family, you don't have a partner. But still, it's hard to, quote, find that work-life balance. You're working all the time. You work later into the night. There isn't people at home, so it doesn't really matter. So you can work, but there's still no, quote, balance to the life, which is to say way more energy goes into work than you would like it to, and you would like to be able to put more time and energy and attention into other things. Those things that perhaps we could say life is about. You know, there's a truth that I've spoken about many times in this podcast and content, and certainly in my coaching program where we look into it a lot, and that is this idea for a lot of men that we want to create more space, more peace in our life, a feeling of peace within ourselves and more peace in our life. Like, everything isn't so fucking hectic and hard out, and I have a little bit more time and space to enjoy my life, right? And then what happens is moments of peace, little pieces of space come, and we fill it. You know, we have a moment where we're with someone and they leave and we pull out our phone, or, you know, there's a moment of peace or just nothingness, and we have to, you know, pull out our phone or turn on the TV or something to fill that space. We have to be conscious about this. And so that's kind of what this conversation is about. I remember hearing from someone, actually quite a few guys independently, this idea like, okay, so I've created this life where I have more space. What do I do with that space? Or in this context, what do I do with that, quote, balance? You do life. Whatever the fuck life is about for you, whatever is meaningful to you, you put into that space. So then we come back to this idea of, okay, but I'm chasing it, it's evading me. I'm chasing it, it's evading me. I'm seeking, I'm finding, I'm trying to achieve life balance, and it keeps evading me. Because that's the point. It's like we're waiting for it to just fucking up and appear in front of us one day. So I want to really focus on this word balance, because I think this is the word that sends us into a fucking tailspin of chasing this end of the rainbow, let's call it, because that's for a lot of people what, quote, work-life balance is. It's some fucking pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, and if we haven't grasped that concept, an unreachable, unattainable rainbow. I'm going to offer you a new word shortly and the idea behind that, but I want to focus on the word balance for a moment, because if you are a man who is, you know, maybe you're in your 25 to 45 or thereabouts either side, and you are pouring your energy into life. Maybe you're stuck on things a little bit, like you fucking don't know what life is about. You don't know what you want for yourself, but you still pour your energy into work. It doesn't seem to give you back what you want so much. It's not as meaningful to you. It's not as much purpose and meaning that you get from your work, but still it gets a lot of your energy, or more energy than you would like it to get. And so you want to be able to have a life that allows you to apply yourself to things that are meaningful and enjoy the things that are also meaningful to you, be it experiences or travel or family or your relationship or whatever, exercise, working on yourself. Trying to achieve this thing called balance. Already we know by its very nature of how we talk about it and almost revere it or have glorified it, is that it is a difficult balance to find. It is a difficult balance to find. Not everyone has it. It's very hard. It's almost as like we want, I was going to say we want a cake and eat it too. And then I think there is an application of that here. But we want to be able to apply ourselves to things that are meaningful, that remunerate us and give us money and financial security and etc. But I want to be able to cruise the world and do whatever I want. That would be the balance. I don't know what people think life balance is. I don't think a lot of people who are seeking, quote, work-life balance have ever actually thought about and detailed what the fuck that would actually be and look like beyond more holidays, more time to do what I want. Like, it's so vague. And when we do not specify what the goal is and we do not specify what success is, then the energy that goes into it it matches the specificity, which is to say it's vague. It is not committed. We have to specify. And this is where it's challenging for a lot of people, because it's like, well, what the hell would work-life balance be? Well, we know on some basic level that it's a very difficult balance to find, because most people can't find it, which is the language that we use. When a balance, so remove ourselves from the idea of work-life balance for a moment and just think about balance. So actually think about it. If you're listening to this, if you're sitting down, stand up. If you're walking, stop. If you're driving, you can do this later. Think about finding a difficult balance. So what I want you to do is I want you to stand on, now or later, I want you to stand on one foot, depending on who you are. This might be easy or harder. Stand on one foot. And then what I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes, because when you take away a sense like your eyes that can scan, balancing on one leg becomes even harder. Now, if you want to make it even harder again, tip your head back so that your eyes would be looking at the roof if you, let's say, had them open, but they're not. And then, try and move the weight of your foot from your whole foot to just the ball of your foot, the toes of your feet. I would call that a very challenging balance to maintain, to first get to and then maintain, right? You're probably starting to get my point here. And when a balance is difficult to find, it is very difficult to maintain, and it is easily disturbed. It would not take very much. A gust of wind, someone brushing past you, someone imposing their needs and demands on you to tip that balance off. And therein lies the roadblock for most of us when it comes to this idea of work-life balance. It's a very difficult, almost unattainable pot of gold at the end of the rainbow balance to attain, let alone maintain. And the harder a balance is to attain, the more easily it is disturbed. The more easily it is thrown off balance. It's a very difficult balance to find. It is very different to having 2 feet planted firmly on the ground. By its very definition, it is a difficult to find balance point. It is the standing on the balls of one foot whilst your eyes are closed and your head is tilted back looking at the roof. Try and maintain that for a decent amount of time. You might get it for a fleeting moment. And this is often how people describe work-life balance. I've had it in moments. And the clues are in there for us. It's that idea of it is something very, very fleeting. So here is my suggestion and solution and word swap. And that is to move away from chasing this unattainable idea of work-life balance, the thing that I chase, which evades me, the difficult balance to find, which is very easily disturbed if I can find it. It's hard to hold a difficult, complex balance, and replace it with integration. So you might be thinking, okay, Mike, what the fuck does that mean? Hey, a quick interruption from me on this one. I'll keep it brief, I promise. And that's this. If you want to hear more from me, not only the deeper content where I go into some stories and some examples and some real education and depth, right? I love these podcasts, but we can go into depth. And that is in my weekly email newsletter, Mic Drops. That's what I call it. That's where I drop the mic and I drop all of my knowledge, my own stories, how I navigate shit, the stories of men that I work with and these things in my life to support you in getting your best, getting past your shit, and getting more from life, love, and every day. So wherever you find this podcast, find the link, subscribe to the newsletter, and I'll see you in there soon. And by the way, that's where you can interact with me directly. Just reply to emails and we can have a conversation. All right, back to the episode. So you might be thinking, okay, Mike, what the fuck does that mean? Well, I'll go broad and then we can dive in. The invitation here, the idea is to integrate the big, important aspects of your life. And in this context of work life, it could be that work and personal life. How do I integrate those things together? And so you might be sitting there going, well, what the fuck does that even mean? Well, first of all, we are recognizing in that trying to find some holy grail of work-life balance is ill-defined, almost impossible by its very nature of that definition, and very hard to not only find but maintain. It's searching for some kind of utopia, whereas integrating the important things in my life is inviting me to be practical, one, two, stipulate, prioritize what are the important things in my life, and then how do I want to, and how can I integrate those things together? And so you can probably see in this, it's also asking me to be realistic with what asks of my energy and time, and how I can and want to put energy and time to those things. Because I think what a lot of people are wanting when they search for this unattainable work-life balance is, I don't want to have to put as much work and time into my work. I'd like more time for my personal life, for my family, for whatever's meaningful. But unless you win the lottery or some weird fucking unique, like extremely unlikely scenario happens, that's just not going to happen. So then I'm asked to sit down and go, all right, what are the big important things in my life? And for you, figure out what that is. But it could be, work is one of those important things. Now, you might also look at that and go, work isn't important to me. I dislike it. Then I would put it to you, okay, pay attention to that. Your work does not have to be purposeful and meaningful. But the idea is that we can derive purpose from it. I've done different episodes on finding purpose, and I invite you to go back and explore those, which will go into that point a bit more. You might not get that much enjoyment from your job, but it has the purpose of providing you with financial security to do the things you want, live the life that you want to and need to, et cetera, et cetera. There is purpose that we can derive from work. And one of the purposes might be, this is sucking my soul. I need to find something else for me. Pay attention to that. And put that into the context of how much time you want to put into that thing. And you might be then building a side hustle or upskilling yourself in something else, which would become part of the picture of this work-life integration of the important things. So then you've got to sit down and go, okay, what are the important things to me? What are my values? What do I value in life? What do I need and want? What are the most important things to me? And often we look at the things that we want and we make the mistake and go, that's what I want, because I'm trying to actually meet a deeper unmet need. So we have to first get to, what do I need? And they are things like security, certainty, survival, and then other things that you might tap into, uncertainty, or you might reword that as something like variety, and so on and so forth. What are the things that you need? Now, for a lot of us, that's simple things like belonging, love, acceptance, with others, but first with ourselves. And then, okay, cool. So what does that look like in the practical terms? I need to exercise. I need to sleep well. I need to get 7 hours sleep a night. I need to eat some fucking vegetables. I need to eat in a way that is conducive to my body digesting it, which means I'm not working hard out and at my desk and eating, but I can sit the fuck down and stop working and eat. For example, to dive into one simple piece, dig into and understand not only what are your values, but what are the things that you derive immense meaning from. And even small amounts of meaning. I get so much meaning from sensing awe. And that can happen in many ways, from traveling to new parts of the world to picking up my trivia book and reading a fact and being, wowed kind of in that moment. And then I want you to do this. I invite you to close your eyes for a moment. Take a few breaths. Focus on the breath. Bring yourself into your body. Tap your feet on the ground. Focus on the breath. And I want you to think about who and what truly matter to you and do you care about. And I would put it to you that the answers to those questions are fairly significant. You might want to journal, reflect, meditate, and journal on them a little bit more. So then, those are probably clues to the things that are very important to your life that you want to integrate. Now, to then go, oh, my family is one of the highest things. To then go, so I need to spend all my time with my family is completely unrealistic, by and large, for a lot of people. So how do I integrate these other important things in my life? Working, applying myself to things that are meaningful, or not necessarily as meaningful. Maybe I work down a factory and it's not as meaningful, but I get to execute on my talents and my skills, which alone is something meaningful and something that as men we need to be executing on our skills and our talents, which is one of the baseline pieces of purpose when it comes to our work, regardless of what that is. And then you start to ask yourself, how would I integrate these pieces together? Potentially that's looking at boundaries around work time, when I work, when I don't. What that looks like, who I need to communicate that with at work, at home. Who do I need to enroll in these boundaries and conversations? What conversations do I need to have? Who would be involved in those conversations? You know, I want to be out of the door at 6 p.m. Is that realistic? Yes, because then I want to get home to put the kids to bed, etc. Or I want to get to my, indoor football practice. So who do I need to have these conversations with? Have the hard conversations, because if one of the things blocking you from creating and integrating the big important things in your life is that you're not having hard conversations, pull up your fucking pants and have a goddamn conversation or two. You can handle tough conversations. You can handle people not enjoying those conversations, and you can handle educating people on your new boundaries. And then be okay with putting energy into work, into things that you give a shit about that allow you to execute on your skills and talents. And if there's a gap in here about giving a shit about work, then explore that and integrate the pieces that can move towards something else in the work realm that would be more meaningful to you. So I'm going to wrap this here in a moment. I want to revisit the 2 key points here. This idea of searching for work-life balance is often the thing that evades us because it is ill-defined and it is unachievable, because a difficult to attain balance is difficult to maintain and easily disturbed or blown off balance. And a more powerful and empowered and realistic and grounded way to go about this kind of idea that we think we're after is to explore what are the important things in my life and how do I integrate them together. And I suggest that when you start doing that and have some patience and persistence and practice it, you will start to feel and experience something that perhaps is what the call it naive and aimless hope for work-life balance actually is. Grounded, peace, comfort, purpose, drive, enjoyment, all kind of merging into one. I'd love to hear from you about what you think about this, if it's landing for you, how you're going to implement it, what those important things are, and the conversations that you might need to go and have in your life. Let me know. Send me an email, reach out to me on social media. Let me know how this is landing for you. Let go of the idea of this unattainable balance and step into a more grounded integration. And then watch what happens. Until next time, that's our show. You've been listening to the Everyday Legends podcast, the show that is dedicated to championing everyday men and supporting you in getting more from life, love, and the everyday. If this podcast has benefited you, if you enjoyed this, then my request, my invitation is to share this with a man that you think will also benefit from this and enjoy this. Remember, please, wherever you find your podcast, you like us, subscribe to us, click download first, leave us a review. All those things both make sure you get all the updates when they come in, and it supports us in getting this podcast in front of more everyday men that could use it. Until next time, I've been Mike Campbell. Remember to build that legendary integrity. And remember, everyday men, we thrive when we are championed, when we are supported, when we are appreciated and recognized for who we choose to be in the world. Here is my invitation to both show up and be that everyday legend, and to continue to champion the everyday men in your life.